Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? For your left.
Now, Jeff, you are unique, in my opinion, in the world of winemakers for a number of reasons. One, you just a little bit ago, you shared with me some of your philosophy in the vineyard, and there's a really great blog post that you did about shoots and the balance of the grapes. It's really an amazing post. And so when I say that you're unique, the reason that I think you're unique is you write what I think is one of the most interesting and detailed blogs in the wine blogosphere that's actually written by a winemaker. Tell me about the blog. Why is it important to you? Why is it important to Artisan? Just talk to me a little bit about it.
One of the things I've always wanted to do with wine is educate people. The level of ignorance of the average wine consumer is incredible. And I think that's true of a lot of people who are perfectly happy not knowing anything about it. They just want to drink it. And if that's what they want to do, I have no problem with that at all. But I think even among people who are more serious and who would like to know more, the level of ignorance is very high. I think to some extent that's perpetuated by the wine industry itself, where maintaining, this romanticized view of wine for sales, which it probably is good for sales. I've wanted to get out there and basically, get into some of the nitty-gritty about how you manage a vineyard, how you make wine, some of the harsh realities of the business. I think the industry as a whole and wine writers are not too interested in getting into. They want to do the same old romanticized version of things. Ignorance. I think wine and the business, once you understand it in the real nitty-gritty sense, is way more fascinating than the romanticized version.
Yeah,
and
I agree with
would like people to understand that. You just read a lot of stuff in the wine press, and, so much of it is so inaccurate, and it's recycling the same old fallacies. It doesn't compare with going out into the vineyard or actually going into a winery and getting your hands dirty and trying to figure some of this stuff out. Hopefully creating something that's really good, which you can't do that with just romantic notions of things. You can only do that with hard work.
That is exactly what interests me in your blog, is that I'm getting a wine education and I'm getting the real, transparent, authentic truth about being a winemaker. Your series on the struggles that a lot of winemakers are having and wineries are having right now economically. I think it was called the Bloodbath series, which was perfectly named. And, there's such a transparency and authenticity about your writing, which is critical in really blogging well and writing well. And I appreciate that. You are debunking a lot of romanticized myths. And like most things, the truth is vastly more interesting than the fiction.
Yes, it is. It's vastly more interesting. It may not be, there's a lot of BS in the wine business, no question about it. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
It really thrives on it, and it has a audience that kind of feeds into it. That's just not what I'm into doing.
Do you think that the wine blogging, blogosphere, if you will, and the social media that is now starting to run rampant in the wine space, is that going to help to pull the curtain back a little bit and maybe make this a more approachable industry, make wine a more approachable drink in the United States?
I think it's going to help. First of all, there's going to be a lot more out there because so many people can do it, whereas very few people could do it, and it was very tightly controlled that way. The misgiving I have is that there are an awful lot of people out there blogging about wine who, if all they're doing is tasting wine and that's all they ever want to do, then you don't need to know that much. But if you want to do anything beyond that, you need to learn about what it's all about. An awful lot of blogs out there that I've read that, to me, just weren't very interesting. Either they recycled the same old stuff that's been recycled for decades in the print media, or they're pretty much limited to reviews.
Yeah.
And I would certainly say that's true of many of the most read bloggers. You know, I don't want to name names because I don't even know that I can quite remember them. But
Sure.
I do know I went through like the top 20 most visited blog sites, and I thought most of them were pretty worthless. Obviously, other people feel differently because they're going to them. But for what I want out of reading about wine, they didn't fulfill my needs.
Yep, I agree, and that's one of the reasons why we started Pulling the Cork, was that we wanted to start getting a little bit deeper. You know, it's not enough for us, in our opinion, to read a tasting note or to write a tasting note and then provide zero context behind that tasting note to understand, you know, where was this wine grown, what were the growing conditions during that time, what is the climate, what's the terroir. All of those things are critical to a good tasting note, in our opinion, and to do things like today, talk to you and learn about, you know, your philosophy and your approach to making wine, and really start to pull the cover off of the winemaking world. It doesn't make any sense at all to me to just sit there and do a tasting note. Honestly, I think any monkey can do that. I think it really comes down to talking more in depth about what's going on that got that bottle to your table. That's what I'm most interested in.
You know, I have looked at lots of blogs, and no question, yours is one of the better ones out there right now.
Oh, well, thank you.
I mean, it is. And you'd make an effort to try to understand issues that are important to the whole wine universe, whereas a lot of bloggers don't. So I appreciate that, and that's really why I connected with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.